It is currently reported that Blu Cantrell and Jay Z are parents to a hidden love kid. According to rumors circulating on the streets, Beyoncé apparently made sure that no one ever found out. Rumor has it that things went far deeper than anybody anticipated when Blu and Jay were together in the early 2000s. There are now rumors that Blu actually gave birth to Jay's child, proving that their relationship was more than just a hint. To keep it a secret, Beyoncé allegedly pulled the strings. The craziest portion, though, comes next. According to insiders, this youngster is still being kept out of the public eye, not by chance either. According to reports, Beyoncé made it plain that there would be severe repercussions if Blu ever came forth. The issue now is, was this only gossip that got out of hand? Or did Blu really get silenced for real? And what is Jay Z responsible for his previous actions? What does that indicate about the likelihood that this may be the case? Because it looks really suspicious when you connect the dots. So let us dissect it. She and the Beamer were both grinning while they were cheating, you know? It is unbelievable that you infuriated her by cheating. One thing about Miss Beyoncé is that she does not play with Jay Z, and Blu Cantrell was the one who had to learn that lesson the hard way. There were some understated whispers that Blu and Jay were involved in something behind the scenes back when Jay and Bey were first becoming well known as a couple. At the time, the majority of people simply dismissed it as typical celebrity rumors. However, things are suddenly beginning to become far more serious than anyone anticipated. Some recent claims claim that Blu and Jay Z were more than simply a passing acquaintance. It is said that she became pregnant. Let us just say that things reportedly were resolved quickly when Beyoncé learned baby. According to the narrative, Blu felt under pressure to keep everything under wraps. Additionally, the infant was kept out of the public eye entirely to prevent any scandal that would damage Jay and Bey's reputation. However, based on these allegations, Blu did not just become pregnant, which makes everything much more complicated. Jay Z may have had more hidden children than we previously believed, since she reportedly retained the child. It seems like a narrative twist straight out of a soap opera at this point, though. According to the streets, Blu's life altered completely once Beyoncé learned about it. Her career was allegedly intentionally shut off, rather than simply fading. According to rumors, Beyoncé intended to ensure that Blu pay for interfering with her guys. Blu's whole musical energy simply vanished after that. Consider it. She made you buzz with a popular tune 1 minute. Before we knew it, she had vanished. People are now viewing that abrupt decline in a very different perspective, pondering whether Blu's name had disappeared from the business because of this alleged love baby. A long back, some fans kind of clocked a shirt about this complicated love triangle, as crazy as it sounds. However, Blu Petrol and Jay Z had a close relationship in the late 1990s. It was so close that some began to question whether there was more going on than simply music. Additionally, Blu was still gaining popularity at the time, performing backup vocals for well-known artists like Diddy. She met Jay Z as a result of this. The chemistry between them just had people talking after that. This is where things become complicated because Jay was aggressively pursuing Beyoncé while he was also becoming close to Blu, and it was no secret. Why then was he still hanging around with Blu in that manner? However, as you most likely recall, Jay had already suffered a significant emotional setback following the breakdown with Aaliyah. He was not exactly aiming to put all his eggs in one basket when Beyoncé entered the scene. Blu entered the picture at that point. According to others with knowledge of the matter, Jay purposefully kept Blu near, almost as a contingency measure, just in case he did not get the impression he was hoping for from Beyoncé, and it was easy to understand why many thought the scenario was strange, given how close Blu and Jay were at the time. However, the length of time Jay continued the double game was what really got people talking, even after Beyoncé's relationship began to heat up. No one was really believing Blu's insistence that nothing was happening, not with Beyoncé in the picture, in particular. Blu appeared to be making every effort to avoid the mess from the outside. Being called the third wheel was not something she wanted. Furthermore, the dinner house just fueled the flames given how close Jay and Blu appeared to be. However, following her appearance with Wendy Williams, things really began to go south. You already know that this was Wendy Williams at her best if you know Miss Wendy Williams. It was also typical. Since she would ask Blu what everyone else was too afraid to speak aloud, she would go right for the jugular, asking her whether she and Jay Z were involved in any way. Furthermore, Blu's response did not precisely end the conversation. Actually, it had the opposite effect, because her energy conveyed a very different message than her on-camera denial of the rumors.
Because you know what, I am used to talking to other female artists who perhaps don't have that same eye.
You know what? And I don't knock it, because my mother did it.
Have you ever kissed Jay Z romantically?
No. No, I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
Oh, she's touching him up the neck! Look! You see?
Why do people not want to let the Jay Z Blu Cantrell thing go?
There was no doubt that Blu could have handled the situation in 100 different ways because she had the option to simply end it. She had the option to turn it on Wendy. She even had the option to move on and take the high road. However, avoiding the subject and laughing it off was arguably the worst thing she could have done. However, she increased the volume of the rumors rather than putting them to rest. The denial was hardly the most outrageous aspect. That was the next step. The love triangle was just one aspect of Wendy being Wendy at the moment. A hypothesis that had been circulating for years was thrown aside by her, that Beyoncé could have been chosen by Jay Z due to her youth. And unlike other visitors, Blu leaned all the way in, rather than dismissing it as sidestepping. She did not only concur, she went one step farther, claiming that age was irrelevant. She claims that Jay never sought for an equal partner. He want a gullible person, someone who is simpler to shape. That is precisely what he saw in Beyoncé, she said.
Radio that I didn't think it would last though.
What, me and him?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're above 25.
Why, he needs somebody younger than that?
At the end of the day, yeah.
Why did you say that?
Because I think at the end of the day, a younger, less savvy to the ways of the world broad.
Somebody a little bit more naive.
You said it, not me.
You good at,
Do you know what I mean?
good at making me say things.
Yeah, I just thought that you were too.
I mean, I think that they're great for each other, so I don't knock it. I can't hate.
However, things became much more complicated when Blu was explicitly questioned about Beyoncé in an interview with The Guardian. And rather of putting a stop to it, Blu's response just made matters worse. She said, I am an adult. She is younger, and she is acting a little immaturely if she is following your advice. She needs to understand, even if she is simply doing it for publicity, it would be a mistake if she accompanied me there. She must be aware of her actions and the risks involved. She attempted to entice Jay to join in as well, saying she does not have to be negative if she is, due to the fact that she is a lovely girl. However, talk to your guy about any problems you may be having. Stay away from the woman. Things is never appropriate to treat things that way. At that point, it became evident that the conflict between Blu and Beyoncé was more than just industry jargon. Behind the scenes, something more profound was happening. At the time, no one was certain of what it was, but now that rumors are circulating that Beyoncé forced Jay Z to deny having a hidden kid with Blu, then turned around and even terminated Blu's career, all of these ideas are beginning to make sense. And to be honest, it is understandable that Blu has harbored resentment for so long. Things start to become rather complicated at this point. Beyoncé has already been accused of pressuring Jay Z to disavow his outside children. She has reportedly stated unequivocally that Jay Z should only publicly acknowledge the children they had together. The pressure apparently increased when they both acknowledged that Jay had cheated. Beyoncé does not want the public to see the recognition of another woman's kid as a part of the Carter heritage. Do you all recall Rhymir Sataways, the supposed hidden son of Jay Z, who has spent more than 10 years battling for recognition? According to him and his legal guardian, Beyoncé was supposedly working behind the scenes to put an end to everything. Liz Crokin, an investigative reporter, said this was more than a mere unfounded rumor. In addition to legal threats, Rhymir and his guardian, Dr. Lily, claimed that they had been intimidated for years. After bringing a legal action against Jay Z, Rhymir even said he was shot at. According to Dr. Lily, Beyoncé was not only aware of everything, but she also reportedly assisted Jay in avoiding and burying the incident. Liz Crokin even indicated that Jay Z and Beyoncé could have made fun of Rhymir in their songs, transforming his suffering into jokes. He and his guardian allegedly received many threats from Beyoncé. At last, they made the decision to sit down with Liz Crokin and reveal the truth.
He needs to stop, make this case go away. The Beyonce thing came when a friend of mine who knew her, somebody in her camp, and she said something supposedly, this is all hearsay, about regarding saying Rhymir needs to go away little boy, something to that effect. There was something out there with the song they made. And then next thing I know, somebody was at my property.
She disclosed that many insiders had informed her that Beyoncé was the one arguing with Jay Z about not taking the test on his behalf.
Weeks later, somebody did. From that time, we heard it.
Right.
That whole thing is crazy.
Right. I mean, it could be a coincidence, may not be. Who knows? But people were saying that she's a big part of the problem for him, and some of the things that she was doing, a woman would not. She would have some sort of role in what her husband does. And if she was secure with herself and with the situation, not saying you gotta like it, Right. She would have her husband handle it.
Right.
Because this is a black community. This is a black man. Rhymir's black.
And that is where things start to become suspect, since a court eventually ordered Jay Z to undergo a DNA test after more than 15 years of battling for it. Rhymir had been waiting for this time, but without providing any justification, he abruptly filed a request to dismiss the whole action. Rumor has it that Beyoncé intervened once more just before Jay Z was going to be made to provide a DNA sample. Theoretically, she managed to coerce Rhymir into resigning, perhaps by threats, legal pressure, or some other covert means. However, it was successful since the lawsuit was withdrawn, and the truth about Jay Z's purported son was never revealed. However, it was not just Rhymir who made news. Letitia Mercer, another purported kid of Jay Z, came out a few years ago. Furthermore, she made it public rather than only hinting at it. She wrote boldly in a post, "I've been quiet for far too long. Join me as I tell you my story of living in the shadows of being Jay Z's daughter, in a city where everyone knew he was my father." She further said that she had previously had a DNA test that purportedly verified Jay Z as her biological father in an attempt to support her claims. As she put it, facts number 1, it was just confirmed with Ancestry DNA. They have a 99% accuracy. Facts number 2, I'm now coming forward because refer to fact number 3, my mother tried to reach out to him. Child support does not work the same for celebrities as it does with your baby daddy. Celebrities are not eligible for child support in the same way that your baby daddy is. Unlike Rhymir, she had several individuals who understood the truth and were prepared to support her when she came forth with some receipts. But all of a sudden, she stopped talking altogether. She abruptly vanished once her posts were removed and her social media accounts were cleaned up. That was not a coincidence, though. According to some of her close acquaintances who came forward a few weeks ago, they asserted that she had received undisclosed payments because if there is one thing about Ms. Beyoncé, she does not fool around with maintaining the flawless image she has created. Additionally, she is apparently shutting down any sign of outside children, broken allegiance, and unresolved turmoil before it ever hits the news. Blu Cantrell was not as fortunate as Letitia, who was able to get her big paycheck. We now have to question if Beyoncé will ever permit it and whether we will ever see her in Jay Z's child. Allegedly, that is. Now, however, everything makes sense. Blu's abrupt decline in popularity, the conflict with Beyoncé, and the persistent rumors that she had a secret kid. The trend is unavoidable. Regardless of your opinion on whether Blu was suppressed, Jay Z's purported outside children are appearing and then disappearing at the same rate. The true question, though, is this: how far will Beyoncé go to maintain the integrity of her empire? This was not a passing relationship if Blu really carried Jay Z's child and Beyoncé buried it. It was a full-fledged controversy that was put out of its misery. This narrative may seem outrageous, but it is far from over if it makes you question who else was bought off, silenced, or pushed into the background in order to preserve the Carter brand.